Milton Friedman's economic theories gave us Reaganomics and are the reason the rich have never been richer. How did he do that? Please let me tell you. As I said in my earlier posts, the potency of Milton Friedman's theories lie in blurring distinctions. Friedman wants us to equate economic freedom with political freedom in our minds. His goal is to make one synonymous with the other, so that political freedom is economic freedom, and economic freedom is political freedom, all the way to the point where economic freedom is the equivalent to freedom itself. Since the market is the living embodiment of economic freedom, any attempt to interfere with the market through regulation or taxation becomes an attack on freedom. It's a neat trick. But the fight for economic freedom is really just a fight to protect the rights and privileges of those with money. To protect economic freedom is to put the interests of those who have economic power first. By wrapping the interests of those with money in the flag and declaring any challenge to free markets a challenge to freedom itself, Milton Friedman gave the rich an incredibly powerful weapon to wield against the rest of us. Should we impose trade barriers to protect American workers? To suggest such a thing is an attack on freedom. Social Security benefits for old people? Forcing the elderly to save for retirement strips them of their freedom not to save. By the same token, any measures to unleash the market, like cutting taxes, deregulation, or privatizing publicly owned enterprises, are ipso facto ways to expand and preserve freedom. Honestly, this is a cockeyed way of viewing the world, and without question, a radical redefinition of freedom. What Friedman accomplished was to take an extreme position, one primarily designed to benefit a very small and already privileged part of the population, and make it the dominant economic philosophy on Earth. From its early days in Pinochet's Chile to Reagan-era US and Thatcher-era UK, the neoliberal agenda spread far and wide. Met at first with reluctance in places like France and Germany, it eventually caught on. When the Iron Curtain collapsed, neoliberalism was seen as the way to transform former communist nations into capitalist utopias. So accepted by Democrats and Republicans that it became known as the Washington Consensus when it was exported from institutions like the IMF and World Bank to third world nations. Eventually, even the protectionist dragon economies of Asia submitted to free market theory. From sea to shining sea, across the globe, Friedman's ideas about economic freedom were embraced. Here at home, free markets became seen as more democratic than democracy itself. As Thomas Frank describes in his book, One Market Under God, what he calls market populism was near universally embraced in the 1990s because of a perception that markets express the popular will more articulately and more meaningfully than did mere elections. Frank says this kind of logic had been around for a long, long time. For over 100 years, it had been commonplace for any business in trouble with the public to say, in their defense, that the market was a kind of democracy. But after Milton Friedman employed his rhetorical sorcery about economic freedom, American elites basically coalesced around the idea that there is something natural, something divine, something inherently democratic about markets. Once this intellectual link solidified, the market and democracy were truly unified. As Frank notes ironically, consumerism is democracy. To criticize its workings is to express contempt for the judgment of the people themselves. In an ironic twist, Milton Friedman, that great lover of freedom, was actually quite open in his disdain for democracy. I'll take a closer look at that tomorrow. In the meantime, please like, follow, favorite, and sign up for my free Substack. Let's make them pay.